Brainwash, be gone. Welcome to the gratitude episode in honor of Thanksgiving here in the United States, a day when we celebrate things that we're grateful for. I want to go a little bit off of our normal format today and just take some time to share all of the awesomeness in my life that I'm grateful for that's come from leaving my high demand religion. I know many of us agonize for years sometimes over leaving a high control, high demand religion. And we often have so many fears about what our lives afterwards will be like. I was so afraid of that. And now, several years out, there is so much for me to be grateful for, and I love my life. This is the kind of episode I needed to hear before I left to give me the courage and knowledge that it's possible to be so much happier afterwards. And it's the kind of episode I needed to hear when I recently left and I was feeling all of the pain and blowback and struggle and confusion of my new life choices, but before I had really achieved any of those things that I was seeking. So listen on if you just want to hear some encouragement and to maybe celebrate your own gratitude for what life has become for you after making these choices for yourself. In preparation for this episode, I just made a big long list of all of the things I'm grateful for, and it was amazing how much it flowed out of me. I am going to cover those things in no particular order. But first of all, I loved getting my time back to take better care of myself. Getting those hours that had, for a lifetime, been set aside always for certain activities. Suddenly they were free and I could sleep or rest or take a walk or spend time with my kids in a way that previously I couldn't because I was always in a church activity or in required prayer type things. So I'm very grateful to have power over my own schedule. I'm incredibly grateful for the feeling of peacefulness that I found in my own home. And that was more after I separated from my ex-husband. That marriage was very tied up in the religion, and I stayed in it for a very long time, way past when I should have, for religious reasons. But once I no longer lived with him, I felt such peace. I was able to set things up in a way that I enjoyed. I was free from criticism in my own house. I was able to just do things the way I wanted to do them in the priority order I thought they needed. And it just was so peaceful. I'm grateful that I now have the freedom to make mistakes and to decide to use those mistakes as lessons rather than feeling like I'm being punished or shamed either by the church institution itself or other people who are involved in that organization or my ex-husband. Just being able to say, I'm going to try something new and it's probably not going to work out how I think it is, but I'm certainly going to learn something and it's going to be important data for me to figure out if I like this thing, if I want to try it differently, how I'm going to try it next time. And not having to be perfect all the time is the best thing. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that my nervous system, my body, is physically relaxed since leaving a high demand religion. I don't even think I knew what it was like in the first 38 years of my life. I think that I pretty much felt fundamentally threatened and defensive almost all the time. I didn't know what relaxation truly was, and now that I do and spend a significant amount of my life in that state, I am so grateful. It's such a wonderful thing to have in life. I'm grateful, too, that I got to have a lot of experiences that I always wanted to have, but that were of the world, so I'd never had them. Everything from watching movies and TV shows that were popular when I was growing up, but that, we didn't watch in my house due to conservative values. I enjoy dressing the way I want to, and dressing to express myself, and dressing outside the lines of a conservative community or even of the standard community, just dressing the way I want to. For me, that means switching to wearing a lot of bright colors, loud, fun, often sparkly earrings. It's just such a joy. It's amazing how good that makes me feel. It seems like something that maybe isn't even important, but once I started dressing the way I wanted to express myself, I realized how important it is, and that's probably exactly why these high control groups want to control what you wear, to tamp down that personal expression. Other experiences that I got to have that were of the world. As a middle-aged adult, I started participating in normal, modern American dating culture. Dating apps, seeking fun and interesting people, and just enjoying spending time with them, just to learn to relate to people and to learn to understand myself better. But in other words, I was able to date and relate to people not purely with the intention of marriage, not within the confines of all of the rules that I had learned about how to court and things like that. And it was really lovely. I met so many interesting people, and I learned so much about myself from that process. I learned to also love my body in a way I never had before, and to feel comfortable with it. Even the parts that are, so-called imperfect by society standards or are aging, like the middle-aged woman that I am. And I just love and am grateful for my body and what it can do. I'm grateful that I got to travel by myself, even overseas, and I didn't care what anyone thought, and I had all the adventures. I'm grateful that I pursued my career ambitions based on what I wanted to do. I became a lawyer. Actually, I started that process before I left, and then I just steadily continued the process of liberating myself. But I became a lawyer. I started my own law firm. Things that had never been on the table when I was a girl. Things I never thought would be possible for me as a girl growing up in a religion like that. I learned to have sex. Yes, I did. I know it might still sound scandalous to you, especially if you have recently left. But I learned to feel pleasure in lots of different ways, and it's truly amazing and wonderful, and one of the things I'm most grateful for. And interestingly enough, in discovering sexuality, I didn't even start with a partner. I just started with myself, and even that was revolutionary because I had stopped repressing my own urges, interests, and instead just started being curious, noticing what lit my body up, what I was interested in, and what felt good. And I feel such gratitude for that. I also started advocating for myself more in all different contexts. I used to feel like I needed to please everyone else and be sort of meek and submissive. I know almost all of you can relate to that sort of training and that way of approaching the world. But I started asking for things for myself. I started asking people to correct errors that harmed me, things that maybe people in general in our culture take for granted, but is something that we are not permitted or expected to do in a high demand religion as a woman. I started speaking out about what I really thought about things too. First in smaller situations and with people I trusted, and eventually doing things like speaking publicly on this podcast and other big public saying what I felt. I also am so grateful for all of the wonderful people who I've met since I left. Some of those people also left other high demand religions. I've got ex-Mormon friends, exvangelical friends, other ex-Catholic friends, all of the things. It's cool how you tend to find people like that who've been where you've been. And also I have friends who just can't relate to what we've been through in that way, but think it's the coolest thing ever that we escaped and that we're strong enough and courageous enough to build our own lives. And I have found that even when we can't get the support that we need from the community we're raised in or from our family, our biological family, there's the possibility of having a chosen family, people that you rely on a deep level, and you know they're there for you and you're there for them. And it's a better support than I've ever had before. And I could not be more grateful for those people. And finally, and most importantly, I am so grateful that I feel free. There are no limitations on what I can learn and experience in the future. I have no pre-prescribed life set out before me. Anything could happen. I could embrace any opportunity that comes my way. And that makes life so exciting and like a grand adventure. And I feel delighted. I feel like a child sometimes in the world, just being like, yay, oh my gosh, all of this wonderfulness here for us. So here on this Thanksgiving, I'm wishing the same freedom for every person in the world. Your journey may look the exact opposite of mine. Who knows? Those are things that I got into and that I feel grateful for. But what matters is that it's your journey and you get to decide. Do you believe in our mission here at Brainwash Be Gone? Then please leave us a review in your podcast app. It helps other women find us so we can keep on busting more sisters out. Who do you know who would appreciate having this podcast as part of her life? Send her a link to the show page at www.brainwashbegone.com.